Hi, welcome to the Berry Nation podcast, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. I'm April.
And I'm Jason.
And I'm Natalie.
Well, all three of us together again. Oh, these are the best conversations because we just get to connect as friends and talk about things that are important to our bariatric journey. This month, new focus. If you are listening or watching in January 2022, our support focus for this month is self-care, but we're taking a bit of a different lens. So yes, we're going to talk about what self-care is and how we practice it in our own lives. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper and really try to unpack why it is so difficult for us to kind of practice self-care, in our own lives. And then for the rest of this month, we're really going to approach self-care from different angles. We've interviewed members of our community to learn how and why self-care is healthcare, why it's dental care, why it's cultural. We really want to go beyond maybe our current understanding of self-care and dig a little bit deeper so that we can really start to understand we are probably practicing self-care in our everyday life. We just are not calling it self-care, right? So little bit of a different perspective, a different look, but the goal is the same: to be able to identify what it is, to understand how we can incorporate it daily or often into our own lives, and how to kind of not beat ourselves up thinking we're not doing it when in fact, probably a lot of things that we are doing are actually helping us reach that goal. So if you guys are ready, friends, I say let's just dive in.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right. So you guys know we always like to start off these kinds of episodes making sure that we are on the same page. So I'm just going to share a definition with you for self-care. And I just want to know, does that resonate with you? Does that kind of fit with your own definition? So I just went to the almighty Googs and I just typed in, right, define self-care. And this definition continued to come up as a theme. Self-care is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. Nat, does that kind of sound about right to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we think about performing self-care, we want to make ourselves feel better, which can mean, we're well rested or well fed or, whatever that is. So I'd say, yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Jason, what about you? Is that kind of what you think about when you think of your own self-care?
Yeah, honestly, decompressing, anything we can do to kind of shake off the day, however that may look. I mean, I know it's going to look different to different people because different people truly have different things they need to decompress from or just kind of unplug or unwind or however you want to define it. I mean, it all kind of goes back to that central definition, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. Right. It's the thing that really stood out to me was that part about taking action to preserve or improve. So it's one thing to think about things that we could do for our own self-care, but it's another thing to actually do those things, take those actions to preserve or improve it. And I really struggled with self-care for a very long time because I thought it was like bubble baths and romance novels, two things that I absolutely despise. So I was like, oh, self-care is not for me. I don't need it. Like, it's stupid, and I just brushed it off. But I was constantly finding myself absolutely out of gas, out of energy, just out of joy. And it was because I was not taking any time for me. And when I started doing things that I thought just kind of helped me lower my stress level, like, planning or meal planning, or I'm very much into organizing, like decluttering, clearing my space. And when I acknowledged and when I took a hot minute to realize, oh my gosh, I felt so much better after I had done those things, right? I felt this wave of relief, almost. It was like, oh, that is actually a form of self-care. It doesn't have to be all of these maybe floral or flowery things that we think that it could be. While they are forms of self-care, we really do have to take the Goldilocks approach to this as well. And we have to try on these different forms of self-care to find what feels and looks right for us.
So, yeah, I think it's also interesting, the term preserve your well-being. Like you said, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to feel amazing right now. It's like, okay, I'm going to make myself a good meal and I'm going to take my medication and my vitamins and I'm going to go to bed on time. Like, that will preserve you as a whole person. And I think that wording is really intentional and really smart to put it that way. Because obviously, like you said, bubble baths and watching your favorite show and all of that stuff, yeah, like it'll make you feel a lot better. I'm sure it'll make you feel great. But the act of just preserving yourself is, that's a very interesting term that I've never heard before and related to self-care.
Well, and a lot of people too, they think that, you know, kind of like what you were saying, you have to take like a chunk of your day and just like clear your calendar and do all of these things that are separate from every, you know, regular everyday life. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, because a lot of people say, you know, well, so I don't have time for self-care because I've got the kids and I got to go to soccer practice and I got to do this and cook dinner and all that. Well, self-care could honestly be something as you know, as simple as meal prepping for the next week, because you're still taking care of yourself, and it's something that you can do that will also align with your goals for the upcoming week. You know, there's different things you can do that you can, you know, you can kind of build them into your day so that you're not having to, you know, it doesn't seem like such a monumental task to wipe the whole calendar clean and just focus on yourself, because let's be honest, as people pleasers, we're the last people we think of. So, you know, doing that is a foreign, you know, a foreign thought process to us. So one of the things that you know, you can slowly build into a different relationship with yourself, where eventually you maybe can take an hour or two to yourself, you know, when you build up the confidence to do so without feeling like you're letting the whole rest of the world down. Because I'm the worst at it. I'll be right here to tell you, like, taking 5 minutes for myself sometimes feels like I'm a horrible person, because you got the whole family looking at you, relying on you for one thing or another. And it's like, oh, well, you know, here I've let everybody down again because I took 5 minutes for myself to do this. And it's like, you know, we've got to break that thought process, because we're never going to get to a place where we can feel comfortable doing that as long as we have those thoughts in our head.
Well, and I agree with what you guys are both saying, because that word preserve, it indicates that some days we just don't want to go backwards. And that's okay. We're allowed to just say, today has just been too much, but I don't want to slide or slip or stumble backwards. I just need to stay where I'm at. And that could be, Jason, like what you said, something as simple as finding 5 minutes for some deep breathing, or going on a walk with my family or with my kids, right? Or booking that medical appointment that I have been putting off, or crossing one thing off of my to-do list. That is preserving your health. And the other thing that I appreciate about this definition is health is not defined as physical health. It's just our general health. So it's our emotional, our spiritual, our mental, our physical, right? All of these aspects of our life is included in this definition. So if I'm preserving one aspect of my health, you know, every day, then I am practicing self-care. And I don't need to beat myself up over the fact that I didn't have an hour for X, Y, and Z. I had 30 seconds, or I had 5 minutes for this. That counts, right? So what do we do on, or what does self-care look like on our luxurious days? So when you have time to really dedicate to your self-care, what are you doing?
Nat, what about you?
My thing is always like, how can I pamper myself? So that was kind of how I grew up, was like, oh, we've had kind of a rough week. Let's go get our nails done and our toes done. Or, you know, let's do our skincare really nice and make ourselves feel really good. Or, you know, getting my hair done. And then, you know, at some point going out to eat, or, you know, just doing things that I wouldn't normally do on my day-to-day life, especially getting my nails done or my hair or something like that, and then going out to eat, or getting like a really nice book. I used to love going, it's kind of moot now in the pandemic, but going to like Barnes and Noble, getting a nice cup of coffee, and doing those things that you know, really make me feel like I'm special in a way. Kind of like taking yourself out on a date is usually what I go to.
Oh, I love that, right? Just having that much time feels luxurious. I mean, it's
Yes.
like, oh my God, right? Just to have a big chunk of time to do whatever the heck you want is self-care in itself. I mean,
Yeah, like eating the things you want to eat, drink, you know, doing the things that you actually just want to do, and that feels like playing or not a task that I have to do, but just something where I can just kind of be whimsical and do whatever I want is nice.
Yep, absolutely. Jason, what about you? What's your most luxurious form of self-care?
Mine is kind of two-step. It kind of depends on if Sarah's here or not. If Sarah's gone and she's working or in a meeting or doing the stuff that she's doing, I go old school with it. I unplug, like I'll turn my phone notifications and stuff off. I'll set my phone down to the side and I play Xbox. Like I play Xbox for like a couple hours. It's my way to disconnect and reconnect. Like I unplug, but I'm not really unplugged because I'm still, using electronics, but I'm not on my phone worrying about the rest of the world and whatever's going on. Like I'll play, a couple of games of Madden football, or I'll play some basketball on there. Just kind of do whatever to just kind of zone out and focus on something different from the outside world for a little while. But if Sarah's here and it's, we both actually have time, which is kind of rare, we'll, we kind of get together, figure out what we're going to do for dinner and whether or not we make stuff, whether we do that or we order whatever. And then we find just we've just decided we've kind of watched everything on Netflix and all the other streaming platforms that are good. So now we've resorted to finding just the most awful, just cheesy rom-com or whatever, just awful movie we can find. And we've kind of tried to outdo each other on awful movies. And that's kind of what we do now. We just kind of sit back, unwind, and just let the night play out.
I love that. I love that so much.
I was gonna say that is so friggin' adorable. Of course you would do that for your self-care. Unbelievable.
It's just kind of how we've developed. After 21 years, you've done all the good fun stuff. Now it's just time to find the awful movies to watch and suffer through.
But it's so interesting that, I think all three of us, part of our self-care is finding a luxurious moment to really enjoy people and food and doing nothing, right? That's a huge form of self-care. Mine is basically the exact same thing. If I have a couple hours to go for a long walk on a beach or a long kayak or just a long walk, that is luxurious. Or if I have dedicated hours that I can just throw myself into a book that I have been like waiting to read, or really dive into like an organizational project, or like I want to gut out a closet or a room or something like that. I know it sounds crazy, but it's so preserving of my health. It just really is. It's that disconnection of whatever is life, and it's the reconnection to those things that really kind of help me, recharge. And same thing, there are some recipes that I have wanted to cook or I really enjoy cooking, but they take a long time. Like you need hours in a day. Bread, sugar cookies, there's like some steak recipes, and you're just like, oh, I would love to make that and enjoy that food, but it's more time than what I have to commit to it. But when I have the time and I'm feeling luxurious and I can build that into my schedule, that is absolutely what I'm doing. Hands down.
I've started doing that for the cooking portion of things because I love to smoke meat and things like that. So I do it, but I'll build chunks of it in each day, because like for some of the stuff that I smoke, it's about 3 days worth of process to prep it, to get it ready, to get it, get it on the smoker, to smoke it, do all those things and pull it off and let it rest and all that. So I'll build chunks in my day depending on what my days look like, that I can work around those processes. Because like that, it's all the prepping for me. I don't have to eat a drop of it. It's the prepping and the cooking it for me, and watching other people eat it and enjoy it is another form that I've really embraced. I did that for my son the other day. I smoked him 4 pounds of bologna and it's already almost gone. Because that literally, he's like, I want to learn how to do it. And so I kind of walked him through the whole process of how to do it. So he's super excited.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because over the holiday weeks, I was down with my family, and there are certain meals that I love, but as a bariatric patient, I don't make for myself because they just don't taste good the next day. It's not the same, Right. And I feel like everyone has their meal where, like, if you're going to impress someone, you have that meal that you make. And mine is fish tacos. I make everything from scratch. I batter them myself. I make coleslaw. I do pico de gallo. Like, I do the whole thing. But I don't ever make it for myself because fried fish doesn't taste very good the next day. And so my family was like, oh, what do you want for your last meal? We'll cook it for you. And I said, actually, you know what I really want is I really just want to make everybody fish tacos because I love making it. It's very like, I don't have to think about it because I've done it so many times. And everyone loves it. Like I get praised for doing it. And so yeah, I was just like, that's all I want. No one has to help me. I will just be in the kitchen. And it was a very cathartic feeling, especially as a bariatric patient who always cooks these tiny little meals for herself, living by herself. And so it was really fun for me to like get to make this kind of big meal and have everyone say, oh my gosh, this is so good. And there was no leftovers, you know, just like the whole thing. So I totally relate to, you know, you making that bologna for your son. It's the same kind of like fulfilling feeling that does kind of preserve yourself. It makes you feel like you are yourself again.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and the connections, you know, I mean, if we are to the place in our bariatric journey where we can make and enjoy these foods safely for ourselves and others, then really we're there for the connection. We're there from the memory, right? I mean, we are allowed to connect with our friends and family through food. That's not going to go away. That's just a part of human culture. So, you know, to hear that it's, you know, not only a safe experience for you now, but it's a way for you to bond with your son, with your family, you know, for all of us. And that's a really good point, Natalie, right? When you're making such small meals all the time, you do kind of miss being able to prepare a meal for a large amount of people. So it is very joyful, right? It's there's a lot that's going into that, to that as a self-care piece.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. All right. So what about on the days where life is just crazy, ridiculous, busy, and you feel like you're constantly behind schedule? How do you practice self-care on those days?
I'm not as good at it on those days. I'm gonna be definitely honest with you, but those are more of the take 5 minutes, deep breathing, just kind of sit to yourself for a minute with your eyes closed and do a little kind of partial meditation type thing and keep it moving. Cause yeah, those are the days I'm hardest on myself as well as, you know, everything else. I don't feel like there's time. So I just deep breath, chug some water and keep it moving.
Okay. But you did say two things there: deep breaths and hydration. That is preserving your health.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Now, what about you? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I have a group chat with my friends, and we all take various medications for our mental health, and so every day we just send a little pill emoji to each other to make sure that we're staying on track. And so I make sure, you know, I check my text. Did I send that pill emoji? If I didn't, I go and take my medication. And, you know, I'm lucky I have a dog who will pester me if I don't take a walk. So I always have to go outside every day. But on the days where it's especially hard, I think making sure that I have a good meal at the end of the day, because a lot of times I get caught up in whatever I'm doing. I'll eat protein snacks, jerky, nuts, you know, nothing that's like a full meal. So at the end of a hard day, I at least make sure that I have protein and vegetables and something that is good for me. So I would say making sure that, you know, I'm stocked with those things that I know that I can eat. Even if maybe they're frozen meals like Real Good Foods or something, making sure I have those options to just zap for a minute and know that I at least ended my day with some good nutrition really helps a lot.
Yep. Well, and you know, the line that you said, I don't know, 2 years ago at this point, I've literally, I've no sense of time anymore. But when that day that you said, if the new you doesn't show up, the old you will. And that was just so life-changing for me. And when I think about my self-care, it's, you know, on the days that I really am stressed to the max, when I don't have the time, I just focus on one thing. What's the one thing I'm going to do today? Maybe it does have to do with metabolic wellness. Maybe it is my water or my vitamins or my protein. Maybe it's walking. Maybe it's journaling at night, right? But it's one thing. What's the one thing that I'm going to be able to get in and do? And when I was really stressed out months ago, I was kind of beating myself up over not practicing self-care, but I just always felt like I was behind that 8 ball and I was never getting done anything that I wanted to do. And even for me, just planning out my day, being true to my planner is a form of self-care. But what I really realized made the biggest difference, and it sounds so crazy, is that when I got a hot minute to just do nothing or do that one thing, taking the 5 seconds to go, this is the one thing, you're doing one thing, acknowledge that. Then I could at least move on. So at the end of the day, when I was trying to wind down, I could think, oh my, if I my old mindset started telling me like, oh, you did nothing for yourself today, or oh, it was just a disaster, blah, blah, blah. For whatever reason, having those moments of pause allowed my rational brain to go, no. I remember stopping like a few times throughout the day and just acknowledging that you were doing something. So even if I couldn't remember what it was I did, at least I had that moment of reflection to go, okay, my brain's trying to talk me out of something or an old story is coming up, but it's just not true. And there's evidence of there because my brain is telling me, no, I paused. And all of a sudden it helped me shift to like, oh no, it's okay, April, you did something. The day was not lost. The day, like it wasn't a waste. You did do good things. But I actually had to find those few seconds just to take that moment and acknowledge it.
I think there's something to be said about that moment of acknowledgement. I think we, in this world, get very caught up in the hustle and bustle. I mean, they're like hashtag boss, is a huge hashtag, right? Like
Right.
being your, I don't know, it gets to be a lot. And I think we all struggle with that. There's so much input coming at us all the time. So I think taking those moments to pause and acknowledge that, okay, no, it's not as bad as it seems. I'm not behind. I'm doing everything I need to be doing because I did this one thing. I think there's something to be said for that moment of pause and acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you're right, because there's everybody's so big on the hustle and the grind, and you got to be grinding all the time. You got to be this, but there's no focus on, but sometimes you've got to take a step back and take a breath because you will grind yourself. What happens if you continue to grind something? It's no longer there eventually. So you can't grind all the time. You can't, I'm more a fan of the work hard, play hard. You work hard now to play hard later. Like I'm all cool with putting the work in first, but eventually there's got to be some downtime. Otherwise you're going to grind yourself into nothing.
We, for one of my dad's birthdays, we got him a graphic and it says, work like a captain, play like a pirate.
There you go.
Right. And it's that really resonated. I mean, my dad, my family is very much the go, 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 go. And, and my family we did reach that breaking point where that lifestyle was going to kill our family. And so we kind of had to do this, this pendulum swing and figure out, as a family, even what that looked like. But it's like that law, Newton's third law, whatever it is, right? For every action, there's an equal and similar, reaction. Well, if we're go, 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 there is going to be an equal consequence to that. And it's usually total shutdown or breakdown or right, loss of functionality. You hear about people all the time collapsing from exhaustion or overstimulation, all these things. So, it's why self-care is something that's so important for us to understand. But I think more importantly, it's important that we figure out how we're going to incorporate it every single day and giving ourselves the permission to step back and say, it doesn't have to be these big, elaborate hour-long events. It could literally be this 10-second moment that I could steal today, or it could be organizing, or it could be meal prep. It could be, all of these things that we're talking about. Because if we don't do it, we're going to find ourselves burnt out, right? And that's kind of the final question that we really want to dive into today is, why is it just so difficult for us to incorporate it into our day? Why do we not prioritize it, knowing that if we don't put on our own oxygen mask, everybody around us is going to suffer as well? Being people pleasers, it just doesn't seem to make sense, right? Well, if we want to be around to like help others, I have to be around. So why am I never thinking that I'm the first part of that equation?
I think a lot of it comes from a generational standpoint of we were just raised to continue to move. Like you're moving, if you're not moving, you're not doing something, you're lazy. You got to get up, you got to get out, you got to do something. You can't just be laying around. It's selfish to take time for yourself because you got all these people relying on you. You got to be working, or you got to be working on the house, or there's laundry, there's kids, there's family, there's practice, there's this, and you got to consistently be doing that. Otherwise, if you're a mom that's not doing all these things for your kids and doing PTA meetings and doing all this other stuff, then are you really being a good mom to your kids? Or if you're not a dad and you're not out there building a treehouse or doing all these things with your kids and activities, are you really a good dad? There's so much stigma built around the fact that if you take 5 seconds for yourself, you're being selfish. That is, it's just so hard to break through. And like you mentioned, us as people pleasers, we've been that, like I was that way for 45. I'm 45 years old now, and there's not a day in my life I haven't been a people pleaser. And it's just, even now, it's just hard to do. It gets easier now for me because I have adult kids that are gone and my grandbabies live in another state. So there's less of those things that I have to do because my kids aren't as reliant on me as they used to be. Mm-hmm. And so, I've kind of getting to a point where those times are easier for me to come by. But no, 5 years ago, no, I absolutely was not, because my kids were younger and I was in the thick of it, and there was just so much going on. There was no way I was taking that kind of time.
Yeah, in the thick of it is, I think, how most people feel all the time, kids or no kids, but that certainly adds a layer of complexity that is not existent in my life. I know, but even I feel like I'm in the thick of it. Like even I feel like I can't find 10 or 15 minutes to go take my dog for a quick walk, right? Mm-hmm. Natalie, what do you think? I literally looked up, I have the definition of selfish pulled up on my phone because I was like, that word keeps coming up in this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in the same vein as what Jason said, I was raised by a parent in that generation of you got to do everything, you got to go all the time. So, I was a kid of 3 years old. I was in dance, I was in ballet, tap, jazz for 10 years. Overlapping, once I got into 6th grade, I was in band. So you add on that to jazz, ballet, tap. So it's 4 things. And then, you get into high school, you're in marching band, and then you're in clubs because college, you need to be able to have diversity. And then you're in AP classes because you need to prove that you're smart enough. And then you're doing homework, and then you have a social life. Where's their room? Like I remember, and then you get to college and you're like, okay, I don't have to do all these things, but what else is there to do but do all these things? So then it starts over. You start adding things on. And, that's how I was raised. I literally was just talking to my friend. She said, what are you doing today? And I said, oh, I just had to go pick up my dog. And then now I'm going to go record. And she's like, you just don't stop. And I was like, you're right, I don't stop. Like I literally, as we were sitting down, right before we were sitting down to do this, I'm like, oh, you're right. Like I don't know how, I physically don't know how, because from the age of 3, I was conditioned to think that I have to constantly do things in order to seem, I don't know, like I'm worthy of going to college or being a good human. Like that was just literally conditioned to me from the age of 3. So, it's these things that, and I'm not blaming my parents or anything like that. It's just society. That's what, I remember thinking about college and looking at all of the requirements. You have to be in XYZ clubs. You have to prove that you're a good student. You have to do all this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, well, geez, I'm just one person, but I guess I'll do it. Because it all
comes back to the 3 words that people always refer to: a productive member of society. If you're not a productive member of society, you're viewed at as something that's not as worthy as the productive member of society. So that's that you got, if you're not moving and shaking and doing something and being producing, then what are you? You're not a productive member of society. So that's a negative connotation.
But yet if you work yourself into a dizzy, you are not a productive member of society. You're a basket
Right.
case that can't keep anything together because you're not preserving your health in any sense of the word.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, not to like keep going, but for me, it wasn't selfish. It was like, this is all I know how to do.
Oh, I mean, literally, when you were saying that, Nat, it was like things connected in my head. I was like, oh my God, yeah, like a 3-season athlete, orchestra, key club, all of the
Oh yeah.
things to get to college, and then a job on top of that. And then you get to college. I mean, I had 3 jobs in college at one point, and I was
Hmm.
taking 18 credit load. And it was like,
Me
what
too.
else could I add to this? Like,
Yep.
and that was insane back then.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And then if the moment that so it's almost like you condition yourself to just go, 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 go. And if you don't know, and I guess this is a question that's kicking around in my head, can we go, 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 and incorporate self-care into that go, right? Like, is
Something's
there,
gotta give.
so it's either go,
I
go, go,
think
or self-care.
because I don't know that there's a balance enough for you to be able to continuously go and practice self-care at the same time. You're going to like, it would legitimately have to be like, because especially with us, because we do everything electronic. So all 3 of us are in a situation where we're working electronically, we're meeting electronically, we're hosting meetups electronically. We have all of the things that we have in Berry Nation electronically, which are all amazing things. We wouldn't give them up for the world, but we don't have drive time. Like I know a lot of people use their drive time home from work or their drive time to, different things that they do as a way to decompress, whether it's playing the radio, high, windows down, singing at the top of your lungs. Like there's different ways during a drive you can do that. Well, us 3 don't have that option because we really don't drive that many places. So most of our stuff is all electronic meetings. So we, think about it. We just jumped off of off of the step bed thing in Berry Nation to be right here to do this with like a 3-second window. We do this all the time. And you and I mean, we constantly will jump off of meeting, jump into another meeting, jump onto a recording, jump onto a live. And we
That's
just build our day like that. And it's to maximize our effort to be able to build what we're building. So it's amazing what we're able to do. But eventually we have to have those days where we just don't do any of it, because if we don't, progress just has to halt for a day because, you know, mediocre or less than product or, production isn't really production at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like, I oftentimes, for my entire life, will feel like I've reached the point of maximum capacity, and then all of a sudden I'm doing nothing well, and then everything suffers. That's how I know that, like, okay, you need to. And normally, what happens in my life is I get hit with a big medical thing. My body will shut down, and I am not functioning. Right? I get hammered with something, and then it's my body saying, no, 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 you will lie in bed for a week and do nothing because of what you chose to do. So I guess I'm just thinking, like, I wonder if there is a balance, right? Like, you guys know there's that card that I got from Pedal Fox years ago, and I take it with me everywhere, but it says hustle and heart will set you apart. Well, if heart is that self-care, then right, I have to have both of those things in order to make it
Yeah,
work.
and I agree, but I think that we have, as time has gone on and we've recognized this, we have begun to build that in for ourselves and each other, because we
Yeah.
will know, like we know each other well enough now where we can pick up and key in on things and say, hey, why don't we just shut it down? Let's shut it down for
Yeah.
a couple of days. We're going to take a step back, because we'll know, like, if it's not all of us, it's one or the other, or 2 of us out of the 3.
Yeah.
There's always, it always just gets to a point where we realize that, hey, let's even if you're having an issue calling it for yourself, we can step up and be like, hey, listen, like, we understand things are kind of getting a little wild. Let's take a breath.
Yeah.
Let's calm down, because at the end of the day, that's what the accountability partner is for. It's for all aspects of this. It's not just to keep you accountable in your weight loss journey. It's to
Yeah.
keep you accountable for all things in you, because life is the same journey we're on in our weight loss journey. And if we're not being true to ourselves in our, exterior life as well as within the weight loss journey, we're going to suffer the same issues that we suffer in staying consistent in our weight loss journey as we stay consistent in our life.
Yeah, and I think going back to that balance, like I have those girls' nights I do every single week. Literally all of us, there's 5 of us. We're not even touching our phones because we're like, the outside world doesn't even exist today. Like in this moment for the next 5 hours, nothing else but right here matters. And those are the times where I'm like, okay, I can breathe, I can be myself, and I can just like not stare at a screen, because Jason's right. I work on 2 screens. I'm constantly staring at screens. I have, my phone. I have, all of these things that I'm constantly just staring at. To have those moments, and you can have those moments, you have to build them out for yourself. And that is the thing that people like us who are people pleasers don't want to take the time to do, is to carve out those moments to say, I'm not even touching my phone and I don't feel bad for it. Like it doesn't matter, that can wait.
Well, it's so interesting when I think back to what we all said about how do we practice self-care, none of it involved technology.
No.
None of it. I mean, I guess sometimes I'll listen to meditation, an app, but I'm not engaged with the screen.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, hard for me to wrap my brain around, because without the technology, I would not have found the success that I've found in my bariatric journey. Right. So I need that. But then I'm coming to realize I need a break from that. And that's so hard when you're like trying to support people on these digital platforms, right? Like you want to make sure that the support is there, but at the same time, how do we also teach people what it feels like or looks like in their own life when they have had too little self-care? Like how do we teach or help people make those realizations and then shift to their self-care and away from the constant connection?
Well, and for some people, self-care is connecting with the community through their technology. So it's not always a thing where technology is the stressor in that situation that causes you to need the self-care. You can, there are people that maybe still have been in the office the whole time the pandemic's been going on, and they don't have a person in their life than their immediate life that understands what they're going through. And the only way they can connect and kind of shut the outside world out is to connect with somebody with technology. And that's awesome that they have the ability to do that. So, props to them for finding what works for them, because that's, like we say, is a part of that recipe that helps them be successful in their journey.
Dude, the thing that continues to come up in all of these conversations that we've been having for like the past 2 years or longer is that word trust. We have to trust ourselves to know when we have had enough, when we need to practice self-care, when we need to disconnect. But we also have to trust ourselves to know that sometimes that tool that is stressing us out is also the tool that can help us practice self-care.
Mm-hmm.
That is really freaking hard when you have never trusted yourselves, or you haven't trusted a big portion of yourself for so many years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And trusting that like you are able to make those decisions. I had a couple days last week. I think I wasn't even on social media. Really, I didn't make a story for about a week. And that was my choice. I like physically, mentally couldn't do it, couldn't handle it. I drew that line for myself. I didn't tell people. I wasn't like, I'm having a really hard time, so I'm not going to be on stories. I just did it. I made that decision. It was fine. Got so many messages of people being like, where are you? Are you okay? Which is lovely. Like, that is so sweet that people care. But I literally just said, yeah, spent time with my family, had other stuff going on, just needed to not be on social media. And I think that we have to trust again in our decisions that our decisions are not for other people, they're for us. And that's a hard thing for us people pleasers to do.
Another thing that we have probably never done is make a decision for ourselves and not for other people.
Yeah. Because I remember, like, you know, telling myself before, you know, on my way to my family's for Christmas, I was like, you need to post more about Christmas because people want to know about it. People want to see it. You know, I literally had that conversation with myself. You need to be on social media during Christmas because people want to see what you do for Christmas, and it's really important. And I did it for maybe a day, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this is not for anyone else but me. Like, this is my moment. This is my holiday. Sure, I like shared some like moments, but it's not for them. It is for me. And that's okay to make that decision. But it's also scary because we've never done that before, like April said.
Well, and especially when you throw in the added layer too, which we often talk about with a lot of people in this community, right? For so long, we felt like outsiders because of our size. And now we feel so connected and so a part of a loving community that we're afraid that if we step away in any sense of that, that the community will step away from us, right? Like all of a sudden we won't be the cool kid or we won't be loved or adored because we're not sharing. So we're battling that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And one of the things that you always will know about our community is, you know, if you find yourself in a position where you feel like you're posting just to post, our community is going to know. Like, our community is really big on genuine thoughts and feelings and things that you post. And if you find yourself drained and you're just posting to post to generate content with no real thought or feeling behind it, it's going to show, and they're going to know that. And, you know, that's the beautiful thing about our community is our community understands when you do need that time to step away. Not only are they concerned that you're okay, they want to know if there's anything they can do to help you.
Yeah.
And, you know, if not, then when you come back and you feel better, they're going to welcome you back and say, hey, I'm glad you're back. I'm, you know, glad to see you posting again, glad you're on stories, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think at the end of the day, everybody in our community has felt that way. And either they've done it and stepped away themselves, or you've shown them that it's okay to do so for themselves. And maybe they will do it the next time they feel like they need that break. So, you know, whether or not this is your community and treatment and the things that you need, you know, to find to make yourself feel better, which we all do. We all, you know that being connected in our community is amazing. And one of the things that has helped us all, you know, the majority of our process. But there's also, you know, it's okay for you to take a little break and not feel like everybody's going to turn their back on.
Well, and really that, you know, the kind of that big question that I'm just still ruminating on is like, how do I myself know that I need to take some time for self-care or that it's lacking, but how do we help teach and show others what that looks like? And I think that so beautifully summarize it, right? When you find yourself asking the questions like, why am I doing this? Or I just don't feel like I have anything to share. Maybe it's because your self-care bucket is empty. Maybe it's because you yourself are empty and that's yourself, that's your soul telling you it's time to care for me. It's time to preserve or improve my own health. You know, maybe that's a starting point for that. I don't have the answer for it because it's something we all struggle with. It's not something we're experts at by any sense of the word. But, you know, this conversation alone has just really, I did not think we would be having this which normally happens, right? I didn't think we would be having this conversation, but it's just so fascinating for me to really hear all of the different layers that are involved with self-care. But it really solidifies for me just how important it is. If I want to become the person that I want to become, and self-care has to be a part of that, because I want to be the best version of me. Well, the best version of me is not burnt out April. It's not angry or mad or stressed out April. It's, you know, calm and collected and clear and organized April. Like, that's the version, but I'm only going to get there if I make self-care a priority.
Well, and a lot of times, you know, inspiration comes from reflection, comes from introspection, comes from taking time to just kind of process all the things that are going on right now in your life. And you may come up against something that you realize that, you know, you need to post about that you might not have known about before. Take some time, you know, to sit back and reflect on the things that are not only going on around you now, but you've been through in maybe the recent months. And you get to a point where, you know, ideas will start flowing and you'll start, you know, firing on all kinds of cylinders and think, oh, I need to talk about this and I can post about this. And then you come back and you're not only helping yourself, but you're also helping others that you may inspire in the community as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, was I talking to you or was I talking to Steph? I don't remember. I know it was a female friend of mine, a bariatric female friend, but we were sharing how, you know, if we're only showing the good of our bariatric journey, then when people hit a rough patch, they're going to think that there's something wrong with them, that they've done it wrong. Because if we're only showing the good parts and not the bad parts, we're kind of doing this disservice. And if we show all of it, we are letting people know that, no, this rough up and down, this is the journey. And when you hit it, you're tracking just with me, friend. Like, nope, that's, oh no, I see that. Oh, I went through that. Oh, nope, I think that's coming my way. And I guess that's where the power of these types of conversations are. It's like really getting into like, okay, what is this? What is self-care? What are the good? What are the bad? Where am I struggling? And, you know, and just getting to the place where it's okay for us to go, ooh, that did not go so well. That in itself can be a form of self-care, right? Just acknowledging the good with the bad and just not justifying it any further. Just saying, nope, this is what it was. This is what it is. And here's how I'm going to move forward.
Yeah, and it was me that we were talking about that, and
Okay.
it reminds me of like celebrities, you know, like we can't relate to celebrities because all we don't see the middle of the journey. We either see them like at the tippy top, doing amazing, living their best life, popping champagne, all of that stuff, or we see them like nosedive and they look horrible and tragic and they go through these horrible things. And you know, People magazine tries to, you know, do it with like they're just like us, you know, segment, but it's like they're not, though, because we don't see that. We don't see them, you know, picking up their prescriptions at Rite Aid. You know,
Yeah.
we don't see those things. And I don't ever want to be that way. I don't want to be someone who, you know, people look at me and are like, oh, she never goes through the mundane, or she never goes through a hard time. It's like, no, most of my day is mundane. I work a 9 to 5 and I sit at my desk all day. And you know, like I want to show those things, and I want to also show that, like, yeah, I get at my wit's end. Like I get to full capacity,
Yeah.
where my brain stops absorbing, and I have to put the phone down, I have to close the laptop, and I have to just step away and do other things, because I am not just a computer, I'm not just my phone, you know, there's life out there. And I need to, you know, show people that, like, yeah, I wasn't really on social media for a week because I was hanging out with my family and I was working and I just didn't want to be online. And that's okay. That's totally fine. But yeah, I think that's how we kind of show others and show each other that balance is possible. You just have to know what your cues are. You have to reflect, like Jason said. You have to know what makes you feel good and what maybe doesn't make you feel good. And you have to know your cues and you have to trust in those cues.
Oh my
Well,
God.
that's one of the things that Stephanie actually said today on her story. She's been absent, and she said that one of the things that kept her from being on and showing the struggles that she was having was she didn't want to be the inspiration for anybody's bad behavior. She didn't want anybody to say, well, if Steph can slip and do this, then I can slip and do this and still be okay, because, you know, and I understood that from such a depth that I was like, you know, I hate that she felt like she couldn't turn to the community for help because she thought she would be, you know, making somebody else feel okay about making bad food choices or bad decisions in their journey or whatever. Because, you know, at the end of the day, everybody struggles. To say that somebody has gone through this entire process and never had a pound of regain, or never ate something they weren't supposed to eat, or they've hit the gym consistently every 7 days or 5 days with 2 rest days, and they've never, please don't sit there and try to tell me that any of that happened, because I'm going to tell you right now, if there's one person on the planet that has done this flawlessly without ever having an issue, I'd be shocked.
I've eaten so many cookies and sausage over the last 10 days. I'm surprised I didn't come home with sprinkles on.
Oh my God. I literally stepped up my scale this morning and I was expecting to see like 230 pounds between the drinks and the food and the sweets and the lack of movement and all that. I mean, like, it was the holidays. It's
so many sugar cookies.
Oh.
Like, I have come to the talk about reflection. Someone asked me what my favorite dessert was, and I was like, I think it's cookies. Like, I think I've just like come to I was in denial for years. I've eaten so many cookies in the last 10 days.
The more you know.
Right. Well, and what's funny is I have decided, and I don't even remember who posted it, what it was, where it came from, or where it is for me to even jump on the bandwagon, but somebody posted a no way January. And I was like, as a daily weigher, I'm on that bandwagon. I'm not weighing for shit. And I have not weighed since like maybe the day before or after Christmas. I don't think I've weighed.
That's huge for you. That's your good for you. Well, self-care. Yeah. This is how you're practicing self-care.
I have decided that I'm not doing it. I'm not touching the scale. I'm out on that whole gig. And Sarah's even held up. She's like, I'm gonna hear you, because I have to slide it out from the wall to be able to step on it. And she was like, I'm gonna hear it if you do. Like, don't play. And I'm like, all right, I won't. Like, because I got up just to immediately go to the bathroom that has the scale in it that morning. And she was like, we just talked about this. And I was like, well, I got to go to the bathroom. It doesn't mean I'm going to weigh. Like, I still got to go in there. So, but it was just funny because, I'm on the no way in November. And like I said, I don't even remember who posted it or where it came from, but it was literally a graphic that was like no weight January. And I was like, wow. I'm on
self-care. Again, know your cues, know when you need it, trust yourself. And you're struggling with all three of those, to trust yourself. But what an amazing, adventure to go on. And I would love it, Jason. You got to just, every day that you don't weigh, put an X mark on some piece of paper, just as like an accountability piece. Not that, not to beat yourself up over if you miss a day, but just to acknowledge that self-care that you're doing for yourself every single day. It could be really powerful.
I think I'm going to put the scale up. I'm going to put it up in the closet, so it's not even an option.
Ooh. All right, two thoughts to leave us with, my friends, because I've been kicking this around too. There is no bad bariatric patient. There are moments where we are out of compliance with our bariatric goals, but we are not a bad human, nor are we a bad patient. And that has just been kicking around in my brain, because I've heard that go around on the social media feeds a ton recently, and that's been on my brain. The last thing that I want to share, I did look up the definition of selfish, and it is very interesting. So dictionary.com describes it as of a person, action, or motive lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. And then the words that are coming up with this are like egocentric, egotistical, self-centered, self-obsessed, self-serving, unthinking, uncaring. That has absolutely nothing to do with self-care. None of that is preserving or improving our own health. So the fact that we are conflating, or we're mashing together the words self-care and selfish together, they don't belong even on the same planet. Those are two totally different things.
Yeah,
wow. Okay. So we have lots more to talk about self-care. Clearly. But I'm just, again, I'm thankful for this space for us to get together and reflect and really talk about these things that we're experiencing in our bariatric lives, because as this conversation demonstrates, it is truly an onion. There are layers upon layers upon layers of this. And if we really want to get to the root of the things that are maybe preventing us from moving forward, we kind of have to have these deep dive conversations into things that we think maybe might not matter that much. Turns out they really do.
Yeah.
So before we part ways, what are your big takeaways from the conversation today? Or do you need time to ruminate on that?
I think mine are to be more intentional with like meal planning, making sure I'm sticking to what I cook, and not letting myself steer away from that too much, because that will serve me and it'll preserve me, not necessarily improve my day or anything like that, but it'll just keep me on track and doing what I want to do. But also that it's okay to continue to set those boundaries, and it's not selfish, right? To do those things, to put your phone on do not disturb, or to go to bed an hour early, or any of those things. They're important to us. So
Awesome. Jason, my friend, what about you?
I know for me, is to really carve out a little bit more time for it, to make it more intentional, to make sure that on those days where I really feel like there's not space, I can find it if I really wanted to move some stuff around. Or, I'm going to have to look a little harder for it instead of just convincing myself that there's no time. Because I cannot continue, or I should say, I can't get to a point where I run myself into the ground thinking that there is no time, because all I'm going to be left with is time to sit if I can't do anything else, because I've run myself health wise into the ground. It's just not gonna benefit anybody. At the end of, when it's all said and done, it's the same thing as put your oxygen mask on yourself before you can help others. If you're passed out, there's nothing you can do for anybody else.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I think my big takeaway is just how really connected self-care and trust is. I'm really excited to explore that brain connection that I've made between self-care is being selfish, because it absolutely is not. I really do want to reflect every day on what I have done to care for myself. And I think I'm going to keep a running list just so I can help myself on the days where I'm like, oh, I just don't have time. It's like, nope, literally you did that on this day, and that helped preserve, or improve your health. And then maybe I can help inspire others with a random list that I think might not be helpful. It might be helpful to somebody else, right? Just the more ways that we can talk about self-care, maybe the more inspiring we can be to others along the way.
Hopefully.
Dang. As always, friends, amazing conversation. Miss Natalie, would you like to encourage people to perhaps shout out themselves?
yes, so every Sunday we have a segment on our grid, which is Shout Out Sunday. It's really a time for us to highlight you guys, our community. You basically go to the link in our bio, you'll fill out a form. It's all about you and your journey. And it's a place for you to brag a little bit and upload a photo of yourself. It doesn't have to be a before and after, so it doesn't matter where you are on your journey, just a photo of yourself that makes you feel good and proud of yourself and your journey. And then I just upload it to the grid every single Sunday, and we talk about you and highlight you, and our community gets to just shower you with some love because y'all deserve it. And it is our favorite day of the week because we just love learning about all of you guys. There's over 13,000 of you now, so we got to get going with all of these shout out Sundays. We're going to be here a while. So yeah, go to the link in our bio. You don't have to be a patron. You don't have to be a part of the paid membership of Berry Nation. You don't have to do anything. Just fill out that form and I get you right onto the grid. So super easy, super fun for us. And it's a time for us to just give back to you guys in another way.
It is literally our favorite day of the year. I learned so much about members of our community with those shout out Sunday posts. They're rad. If you are looking for an extra layer of support, we invite you to become a member of the Berry Nation community. We're so proud of what we've built. We've partnered with some pretty amazing experts and moderators to deliver like live, synchronous, in the moment support. So we have support groups and cohorts that are led by therapists. We have live events that are led by registered dietitians or professional chefs. We have a ton of peer-to-peer like support meetups. So just like a lunch break with Maddie or myself. There are written support guides, there's dedicated chat areas, there's a lot there. We encourage you to visit our website, berrynation.com, to learn all about it. And you can try the community for 14 days before you commit to a membership. So it's definitely worth a little bit of experimentation. So, all right, Jason, I think we did it, my friend. You want to take us out?
I think so. We just want to thank everybody for all your continued support, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, the word of mouth, the bringing people to the community. We can't thank you enough for all of that, because at the end of the day, your support for us and our support for you is cyclical in nature, and it helps us just support each other and ourselves. So we thank you for that. And don't forget, you can always leave us on your favorite podcast player. You can leave us ratings and reviews. On the Anchor app, you can leave us voice messages that we can incorporate into future episodes of the podcast. We love doing that, because bringing you guys in as a part of the podcast is always amazing. And also on the YouTube channel as well, ratings, reviews, those things, making us one of your favorites also helps. And just remember, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, friends. Talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.